Native Americans have a rich history of living in harmony with nature, especially in the dense forests of North America. These tribes developed a deep understanding of their surroundings, using this knowledge to survive and thrive in environments that would be challenging to most. Their relationship with the land was not just practical, but also spiritual, seeing nature as a living entity to be respected and cherished. Some tribes are well known for residing in the forested areas of North America, such as the Iroquois, the Cherokee, the Ojibwe, Chippewa. Survival skills were not only a means to sustain life, but also a part of their cultural identity. Through generations of accumulated wisdom, they mastered techniques in hunting, plant identification, fire making, and navigation that are still admired and studied today. This video explores the remarkable survival skills of Native Americans and how these ancient techniques shaped their way of life in the deep forests. Hunting and trapping techniques. One of the most crucial survival skills for Native Americans was their proficiency in hunting and trapping. These activities were essential for providing food, clothing, and tools. They primarily used bows and arrows, spears, and atlatls, spear throwers, to hunt large game like deer, elk, and buffalo. The bows were often crafted from flexible wood, such as hickory or ash, and the arrowheads were made from stone or bone, carefully shaped for accuracy and lethality. In addition to direct hunting, they also developed sophisticated trapping techniques for smaller game like rabbits, squirrels, and birds. They used snares made from plant fibers or animal sinews and strategically placed them along animal trails. These traps required little maintenance and could catch multiple animals over time, providing a steady source of protein. Hunting was often a communal activity, with groups coordinating their efforts to encircle prey or drive them into ambush points. This collective approach not only increased their chances of success, but also reinforced social bonds and shared traditions. Respect for the animals they hunted was a fundamental aspect of their culture. They believed that every animal had a spirit and should be honored, often performing rituals to express gratitude for the sustenance provided. Knowledge of edible and medicinal plants. Native Americans had an extensive knowledge of the plant life in their surroundings, which was critical for both nourishment and healing. They could identify a wide variety of edible plants, berries, nuts, and root vegetables. For instance, they collected acorns, which were leached to remove bitterness and then ground into flour for bread making. Berries like blackberries, raspberries, and blueberries were not only food sources, but also used for dyeing and medicinal purposes. Their understanding of medicinal plants was equally impressive. For example, willow bark was commonly used as a natural pain reliever because it contains salicin, a compound similar to the active ingredient in aspirin. Plants like sage, used in purification rituals, also had antiseptic and anti-inflammatory properties. Echinacea was used to treat infections and boost the immune system. The knowledge of these plants was passed down through generations and often guarded as tribal secrets. The use of plants extended beyond just practical applications. They were also deeply tied to spiritual beliefs. Certain plants were considered sacred and used in ceremonies to connect with spiritual guides or to invoke healing energies. Fire making skills. The ability to make and control fire was one of the most essential survival skills for Native Americans. Fire was used for warmth, cooking, protection from predators, and in various cultural rituals. Traditional fire-making techniques included the bow drill and hand drill methods, which required friction to generate heat and ignite a flame. Creating fire from scratch using natural materials was a skill that took years to master. The bow drill, for example, involved a wooden bow wrapped with a cord that was rapidly moved back and forth to create friction against a wooden spindle. The heat generated by this friction caused the wood dust to smolder, eventually igniting into a small flame. Besides creating fire, Native Americans also learned how to maintain it efficiently. They would carefully bank the fire with ashes at night to keep it smoldering, making it easier to rekindle in the morning. This technique was crucial in cold environments where a continuous fire source was necessary for survival. Building shelter. Shelter construction was another area where Native Americans showed their ingenuity. Depending on the tribe and the region, they built different types of shelters suited to their environment. The most well-known structures include the wigwam, the teepee, and the longhouse. Wigwams were dome-shaped structures made from wooden frames covered with bark, reeds, or animal hides. These shelters were common among tribes in the northeastern woodlands, providing insulation against cold and heat. Tipis were cone-shaped tents made from wooden poles and covered with buffalo hides. They were used by plains tribes and were easily dismantled and transported, making them ideal for nomadic lifestyles. Longhouses were large, rectangular structures made from wooden poles and bark, used by tribes in the northeastern regions. These communal houses could accommodate several families, providing warmth and protection during harsh winters. Location was key when building these shelters. Native Americans chose elevated, dry ground to prevent flooding and to reduce the risk of pests and predators. The design of each shelter took into account the local climate, ensuring that it was both durable and comfortable. Navigation techniques. Navigating through dense forests required a deep understanding of the landscape and natural cues. Native Americans used the position of the sun, stars, and moon to determine direction. The North Star, in particular, was a reliable guide during nighttime travels. Natural landmarks like rivers, mountains, and specific tree formations also played a crucial role in navigation. For instance, they observed how moss often grows on the north side of trees in the northern hemisphere, providing a natural compass. Animal trails and bird migration patterns were also used to find water sources or fertile hunting grounds. Their ability to move silently through the forest was another important skill. This not only helped in hunting, but also in avoiding detection by potential enemies. They developed techniques to step lightly on the forest floor, minimizing noise and leaving minimal traces. Crafting tools and utensils from nature. Native Americans were skilled craftsmen, creating a wide range of tools and utensils from natural materials. Stones were shaped into arrowheads, scrapers, and knives, while bones and antlers were used for needles, fish hooks, and other implements. Wood was also a versatile material, carved into weapons, spoons, bowls, and even musical instruments. Basket weaving was another essential skill, with fibers from plants like willow, sweetgrass, and reeds woven into intricate designs. These baskets were used for carrying food, storing seeds, and even cooking when lined with hot stones. The craftsmanship of these items was often highly detailed, reflecting both functional use and artistic expression. Passing down these skills was an important cultural tradition, often taught from elders to the younger generation. Each tool and utensil carried a story or symbol that connected them to their ancestors and the natural world. Food preservation methods. Food preservation was critical for ensuring a steady supply of nourishment throughout the year, especially during harsh winters. Native Americans employed techniques like drying and smoking meat to extend its shelf life. Meat from buffalo, deer, and fish was often cut into thin strips, dried under the sun, or smoked over a low fire to prevent spoilage. They also developed methods to store grains, nuts, and dried fruits in underground pits lined with grasses and leaves. This kept the food cool and dry, protecting it from insects and rodents. Some tribes used natural preservatives, like salt from mineral deposits, to enhance the longevity of their food supplies. These preservation techniques were crucial for their survival, allowing them to build food reserves that could be used in times of scarcity or during long migrations. Animal observation and communication with nature. Observing and understanding animal behavior was a vital skill for Native Americans. They closely monitored the habits of wildlife to predict weather patterns, find food sources, and identify potential dangers. For example, the migration of birds often indicated seasonal changes, while the behavior of animals like deer and rabbits could reveal nearby predators. Mimicking animal calls was a technique used both in hunting and in communication. Hunters learned to imitate the sounds of deer, birds, or other animals to lure them closer, or to communicate with other hunters without speaking. This method helped them blend seamlessly into their environment, becoming part of the natural rhythm of the forest. Culturally, animals held significant spiritual meaning. Many tribes believed in animal totems, or spirit animals, that guided and protected them. This deep respect for wildlife influenced their approach to hunting and coexisting with nature, ensuring that their actions were in balance with the environment. Sustainable living and environmental ethics. Native Americans practiced sustainable living long before it became a modern concept. Their principle of taking only what was needed from nature and ensuring that resources were not wasted was a cornerstone of their way of life. They believed in the interconnectedness of all living things and that every action had a consequence on the earth. They used biodegradable materials for most of their tools and structures, which naturally decomposed without harming the environment. Rituals and ceremonies were often performed to thank the earth and its resources, emphasizing a spiritual connection to nature. These practices were not just about survival, but were also a way of showing respect for the planet and ensuring that future generations would have the same opportunities to live off the land. The survival secrets of Native Americans in the deep forests were a blend of practical knowledge, cultural traditions, and a deep respect for nature. Their skills in hunting, plant medicine, fire making, navigation, and sustainable living enabled them to thrive in some of the most challenging environments. These techniques were not just about survival, but were part of a broader philosophy that emphasized harmony with the natural world. Today, many of these ancient practices inspire modern outdoor survival techniques and environmental conservation efforts. By understanding and appreciating these skills, we not only learn how to live more sustainably, but also honor the wisdom and legacy of the Native American people.